My name's Jill Rowe, and in this episode of the Different Podcast, I talk with Steve Chalke about joy as an act of resistance. When things feel despairing, we can still seek out joy. Being able to dwell in joy takes planning and intention. And in time, what we do deliberately becomes second nature to us, even when surrounded by despair. Whether it's eating together, singing together, serving together, joy can be the outcome from which everyone benefits. In these acts, we declare that a different way is possible. We pray this episode helps you to see all the joy that does exist in the world, even amongst chaos and uncertainty. Steve!
Hello, Jill.
Back again.
Yeah, here we are.
It's nice. It's very nice.
It's got a rhythm to it, hasn't it?
Yes.
And the rhythm for us is to end up back here.
Back here on a Monday evening.
Yeah, always on a Monday evening. Why is that?
It works in our diaries, I think.
Right.
It's the start of the week.
Anyway, it's nice to be here and it's spring outside.
Absolutely.
Although you can't tell from in here because it's just black in here, just because it's all these drapes in this drama studio.
Black walls, but it does feel cool. It's brilliant to see you. I was remembering the other day. In fact, what happened was I was in the office at Oasis, and one of the members of the team, she showed me a video of somewhere in Spain where she used to live during COVID.
Wow.
And she said, oh, look at this. It was Carrie. She said, look at this. This is what one of our neighbours did to bring us all joy during like the pandemic. And it was a neighbour of hers who dressed up in, I think it was like a dinosaur inflatable suit, and was just, walking around the street down below the flats, spreading joy and all the rest of it.
Or fear if you're only a little 2-year-old and you think it's a real dinosaur.
It was quite funny. And I was just remembering how in the pandemic, when there was a lot of despair and there was a lot of challenge, we all knew just how important joy was, and that joy was an act of resistance to that despair.
A deliberate act.
Yeah. Deliberate. And we were deliberately going out of our, like banging on pots to celebrate the NHS and the care that was being given and the kindness that there was. And so it just got me thinking, because I've been spotting just recently, in a time that feels very despairing, that there are these examples of joy as resistance that are coming through, like in Minnesota and iftars in the middle of the rubble in Gaza. And it reminded me as well of, I have talked about it before in Oasis, but at one time I visited the Italian chapel in Orkney, which is this Nissan hut in what was the prisoner of war camp. But this chapel, which looks really ordinary from one end, but when you go around the front, they've turned it into something that looked like a chapel. But if you look at everything that's in there, it's all made with cast-offs and tins of beans. And so the chandeliers are made from what's supposedly rubbish and all the rest. So it's just this brilliant example of what you can do when you resist with joy and creativity. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. You need to plan.
Yeah.
In other words, I remember, it reminds me of this thing somebody said to me years and years ago, and I still remember that an undisciplined life is an unproductive life. And what they meant was you need to create the disciplines that create the rhythm in life. But if you just meander through it, if you just hope it's all in that kind of vague sense that everything's going to turn out okay or be well, nothing ever happens. I spent yesterday evening actually planning for acts of joy. Now, what that actually means in my life is I've got all these little grandchildren, and I I'd promised to take...
There are a lot of them.
There are a lot of them. There's 10. I promised to take 2 of them together from 2 different families to go to this particular thing for a day. And then another 2 of a different age group from different families, they wanted to go. So I planned that. And then there was another 2 who wanted to go. And then one who said, yeah, but I want to go somewhere on my own with you. So I planned that in as well. So it took me all evening and then I got to talk to all their parents, you know, and work this all out. And we just did something the other week, you know, where I took everybody out for the day. So it takes a lot of planning to produce joy, doesn't it? So,
but it's deliberate, isn't it?
Yes, it's deliberate. That's
deliberate.
it.
Yeah.
It's a real discipline to create those moments when people can be together and celebrate together and enjoy one another, to find the joy of being together. And the joy comes through simple things like a guy dressing up in a dinosaur suit.
Yeah, even in despair. And I think that's so it just kept coming up on my Instagram feed in Minnesota, how people of good faith were gathering together with all the ICE stuff that was going on with the ICE. I don't know even how you describe them, patrols. And these people of good faith from across the kind of spirituality range were coming together to sing songs together about you can give up this way of being outside the hotels where ICE was staying. Like these, and you just think all through history, people have sung resistance songs, haven't they? Mm.
And done resistance things, haven't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been working on this big project.
You written a song? Oh.
Sadly. Well, no, actually, gladly, I've not written a song. I have written songs in the past, and that didn't really work very well. So I was offered, by the way, I know this off on a kind of woohoo. I was offered several recording contracts, which you may know, because I used to go on stage and sing these songs. Yeah. I was offered loads of recording contracts. I always turned them all down because I knew that accepting a recording contract and recording anything wouldn't bring anybody joy.
Yeah, less an act of resistance.
Yeah, it would have been an act of resistance not to listen. It was an act of resistance not to fall for it, to tell you the truth. That brought lots of joy. I didn't record anything. I completely lost my thought. Oh, no, what I have been working on is a plan with a few friends about acts of resistance because, as you say, we live in an increasingly fragmented society, don't we? Fragmented communities where people are lonely, where people are fearful, where they feel that there's hostility to them because of their colour or their religion, etc., etc. That's on the increase in our society. And so with 2 friends of mine, one called Julie and one called Brendan. So we came up with an idea together, an act of resistance, an act that will bring joy, we hope. And we've called it We Are United. Yeah. And what we've just put together a video, which we're just launching out publicly and getting support for around the country. But we're going to suggest to communities, local communities, that they hold Christmas meals together, because I suddenly realized, having lots of Muslim friends and Sikh friends and Hindu friends, it's not just Christians that celebrate Christmas. Christmas has become this festive season, hasn't it? 10 days when everybody does get joyful just for a moment, when they believe in peace and goodwill and generosity and kindness, and it lasts as long as Boxing Day morning, and then it all crashes into the ground as everybody rushes off to the shops, etc., to battle it out to get a deal. But what we're inviting people to do over next Christmas, this coming Christmas, is an act of resistance, an act of joy together. So if you're a university of the third age, work with a primary school. If you're a secondary school, work with the Rotary Club. If you're the Rotary Club, work with the local church. If you're a church, work with a mosque. But put on a Christmas meal together in those few days, those days of joy leading up to Christmas, to find new people, to find joy in relationships, in sharing food together and celebrating together. But it's an act of commitment, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because all joy comes from planning.
Yeah. And joy enables you to resist, doesn't it? So if you think people were enslaved and sang those, those incredible spiritual songs, they were speaking of a different reality, weren't they, to the one that they... And so, Steve, with that, We Are United, bringing people together around a table in that, at Christmas time, but dear God, let it be regularly. It's a way of that resistance is showing a picture of a different way of being, isn't it? It's an act of resistance against that despair and that injustice.
Yeah,
isn't it?
It's a deliberate decision, and we chose for this to happen around at meal tables because throughout human history, people have gathered around a table to eat and drink and find one another, because we find the joy in the simplest things in life. And I should say that Brendan is somebody, he's not religious in any sense at all. And Julie is a very committed Muslim and tells me she didn't know a Muslim that doesn't send Christmas cards. So, and then I checked this out with friends of mine from different faiths and standpoints. And Christmas has just become this festive season for everyone, hasn't it? So we want to grasp that, but it's a lot of work, isn't it? I sometimes find, Joe, I sometimes think, I don't know if this ever happens to you, I sometimes feel like my whole week or month or sometimes even year is an act of resistance. It's deliberately pressing against all of that external opposition that makes you just want to sometimes, give up. I'll give up and I'll watch the telly. I'll give up. And, people say to me all the time, of course, well, don't you think you should retire and all that kind of thing? But I think that my act of resistance is to keep pushing towards the things that we all know need to happen so that others can find joy. You work hard to bring people together. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, no, it does make sense. No, absolutely. I think for me, I am always trying to point at what is joy, where joy is for people. So I find it really difficult to walk down the street and not grin at everyone because to me, the very fact that I get to see just the beauty of everybody who's part, like, to me, that is what an amazing thing that you get to see such diversity when you're walking down. Like, that is so full of life and energy for me. Or, when a kiddie does something really funny, or like today we've had some students from one of the academies in one of our Oasis academies in doing work experience. They're just really funny young people who say the best things, and it's all so full of joy. But sometimes we can give our sight to the things that are despairing rather than to what I would call these moments where heaven and earth are really touching, and you just need to pay attention to them. Because I find when I pay attention to those things, it energizes me for the bigger pieces of work around bringing people together and running projects and hosting difficult meetings where you're like helping people. Come on, we can do this. This is what we're about. So, for me, it's about pointing it out and acknowledging it in the everyday, like tasting food. Like, to me, that's like, what a joy. I just had a ginger oat cake. It was fantastic.
I watched you have that before we started.
Offer it. But like, even if you can pay attention in the smallest of things, everything and to me, that is like a buffer against the despair. I saw a clip of, and they were preparing for Ramadan. They were preparing to break their fast, and it was in Gaza. And there was a chap who had got a load of old Coke cans. Other fizzy drinks are available, and he was cutting them out so that they hung like lanterns, and he put little candles. So, and it was just beautiful. And that, like, in the middle of all the rubble, you use your creativity and you see something that looks so ordinary, and you can turn it into something that is going to bring joy and is an act of resistance against the pain and the challenge and the despair of now. And I just feel that's what the world really needs.
That's an interesting idea, isn't it? Because I've listened to endless talks about what's deepest, joy or happiness.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
That people always talk about that. And I've heard people argue both ways.
Yeah.
But what you're really saying is that joy or happiness comes through a determination not to cave into the abyss.
Yeah.
Not to cave into despair.
Yeah.
But to press forward.
Yeah, and to choose to see differently.
To choose to welcome someone.
Yeah.
To see them, to look at them, to greet them, to cross the room, to say hi, to connect with them.
Yeah.
To delight in them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why when I think about those songs, those great songs that have been sung in the midst of slavery, or, any of that, like where the passion of who we are as human beings just comes out and says, I'm going to resist all of this and I'm going to sing this new song of a different way. That's what we're talking about, isn't it?
I suppose it's like kintsugi, which we probably talked about before, the Japanese art form where you take something that's smashed and broken, a plate, a vase, a bowl or something, and instead of slinging it in the bin, you mend it with that glue with gold thread in, and you create something out of beauty that really is more beautiful than what you started with. It's that determination to do that, isn't it? To not cave in.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something really practical I've found, that getting up in the morning. So I get up in the morning and I did it this morning, actually. I got up in the morning very early.
What time's very early,
Well,
Steve?
I get up about 5:30, something like that, only because I will always wake up then, But at 6:30, I did a half-hour workout. Now, the thing is, I don't always, I sometimes stumble into this thing. Oh, do I want to do that? Every fibre in me goes, oh, don't do that. Just send an email. Do something like that. But in actual fact, if you bounce up and down or go for a run
better.
or, do some star jumps or whatever it is,
Yeah.
it's amazing how that is an act of resistance against tiredness or lethargy just in itself. It really is.
Yeah.
So I find that by the time I'm head off out, I do.
Ready.
Yeah. Well, it's all those, endorphins, isn't it? Et cetera, et cetera. They kick in.
Yeah.
But again, it is an act of resistance just to do that thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Miroslav Volf, who you know, says, I look at joy as an act of resistance against despair and its forces. Joy in that regard is a work that can become a state, that can become a way of life. Isn't that great?
Yeah, it is. It is,
doesn't it?
No, that makes a huge amount of sense to me. I think that people will often think of someone else, won't they? Their life runs smoothly, their life runs well, but what happens is the other doesn't see the struggle, and I genuinely think that for me, I guess for everybody really, life is that struggle, but the struggle is to stand against the despair, to stand against the setback, and to claim joy by taking action.
Yeah. I think that's why I'd see joy and happiness as a different thing, because I think joy has a depth that, like, is not, it comes with a peace and a sense of... Happiness feels like it's something that happens to you, whereas joy is something that comes from within you. that you can hold tight to, whereas happiness can come and go.
Hey, Jill, I've heard it argued both ways by
well,
different people. We
but
should
as
run
I
a competition
understand it,
and say to people, what's the deepest? Yeah.
But that for me is like there is a happiness. The word happiness, I always think is, these were happy. I laughed at that. There was a comedy, and that was funny. That was funny. That's past. Whereas joy is something that dwells in. For me, it's something that dwells in me and acts, as I said, about like a buffer to despair and hate and division and giving up and so, like you said right at the start, you have to really work at that. That doesn't just land on you. That's something that you're cultivating
you
the
practice.
Whole time. Yeah.
It's a kind of pruning, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like a plant that's not pruned, that's not cut back, isn't one that's productive, isn't one that's successful. And I often think about that, about my own life, that I need to be purposeful all of the time in what I'm doing. That makes you sound like a robot, though, doesn't it? But it's not that. It's for me, I recognise that life is precious. I don't always walk down the road with joy, looking into people's eyes, and I do sometimes. And got to be careful when you're on the tube. Smile at the wrong person, they get very upset with you, don't they? That's the reality of it. But no, I absolutely understand that, and I watch people and I think, wow, look at you with all your potential. You're young. Or I look at somebody, who's older and wiser, etc., etc. I think, wow, that's an extraordinary thing. But I know that my job in life is to keep working hard to create that for other people where I can, to prune my life, to live with that sense of purposefulness, which is not just the biggest hedge against despair for me, but it creates opportunity for others as well. I am my brother's keeper. I am my sister's keeper. We are one another's keepers, aren't we? Yeah. No man is complete by himself, as John Donne, the great poet, said. We're all part of the main of the continent. We're committed to one another. Yeah.
Joy as resistance. And then in Psalm 40, it talks about, it's the U2 song, isn't it? I'll sing a new song.
Yeah, I think,
let's not sing it now.
Well, we've already talked about my singing.
But I think that almost is like the anthem, isn't it, of joy as resistance.
Yes.
Sing a new song.
Yes.
I'm going to find it. I'm going to find it, even in despair. Despair is this belief that tomorrow is going to be the same as today.
Yeah.
Whereas joy and hope are that it's going to be different.
Yeah. How long will we sing this song in a strange land? That's what the psalm says, isn't it? And I whenever I think about those words, I think, but you're singing the song in the strange land. Yeah. How long? So there is that sense of how long will we have to keep going? But I am singing right now. That is the act of resistance. So I guess that's for me. It's been great talking to you about this. Each and every day is that determination to sing that song and never give up. And I think that one of the things I'm constantly aware of, which probably means I've talked about it before, is, again, it arises out of these psalms, the songs that are the lyrics of which, the tunes are gone, but the lyrics are there, that recorded in the Jewish Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament. But these are songs that are all written in struggle. Every single one of them, because these were an oppressed people that were struggling with life, people that were struggling with the poverty levels that we can't even begin to dream of. They're struggling with oppression by foreign powers, etc., etc. And yet they learn to sing in that situation. And I always think of that as these people were not living their first choice lives. Everything wasn't rosy for them. They were living second or third choice lives, every single one of them. And yet they learn to sing in that situation. Yeah. And I kind of think, do I know anyone who's not living their second choice life? Have I ever met anyone that things have gone in a very rosy way for? We all live second choice lives. Yeah. our job is to commit to that act of rebellion where we are. Well, my job is, your job is. I'm not trying to tell anybody else what their job is at all.
To sing a new song. Thank you, Steve.